Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge Town Council meeting of Monday, August 5th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Catrona.
Present.
Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor Jovan.
Present.
Councillor Lazo.
Present.
Councillor Manna.
Present.
Councillor Marquetti.
Present.
Councillor Nash.
Present.
Councillor Steves.
Present.
All councils present. Item 3, consider and accept the Town Council minutes of Monday, July 5th, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Go, Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick note that in two different spots within these minutes, I've requested that Mike Moore be given the title of State Senator for reference, including Agenda Item 5, Chairman's Announcements. And I didn't highlight the second portion, but I believe it was in Councilor's Forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Steves?
A couple of minor things. There's a couple of things in item 20, 21, and 22 that it said postponed until 8/4. It should be postponed until today, 8/5.
Okay.
Under item number 4A, Merrick is misspelled. And the last reference is under item number 28, number 28. It should clearly state that you did state we would return to open session to vote.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay. Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under item number 5, agenda item number 5, first sentence, did you say the 21st or the 26th for the concerts?
I said the 21st, I think, first, but then we changed it to the 26th.
That's what I had. Thank you.
Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you. Under item number 6, the blue building would be used for temporary shutdown to retrofit for the Auburn and Charlton facility. Is that Charlton or Charlestown?
That should be Charlestown.
All right, thank you. That's it.
You got that, Madam Secretary? Charlestown. It wasn't Charlton. Thank you, Councilor. Any further? All those in favor as amended? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Thank you. Subcommittee reports. General Government, Councilor Steves.
Yes, we did have a meeting. Give me a second to pull them up, because I haven't had a chance to type them up yet. We had a meeting on July 29th, which has a couple of the agenda items on this agenda. A couple of our appointments for subcommittees, citizen members, the $5 transfer that's down there. We talked about the transfer policy at some length. Again, it's still incomplete. And we continued the discussion of amending the keeping of pets bylaw, which we still need to do some more work on. And I do not currently have a meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Councilor Steves, just for the record, the chief had sent me an email because I had requested a copy of the bylaw because they didn't have enough the other night.
The pets bylaw?
Right. He just asked if you could hold off until the end of August or 1st of September to bring that item back up due to commitments that he has.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. Department of Public Works, Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Department of Public Works Subcommittee has met twice since our last meeting, including Thursday, July 25th, and this last Monday, July 29th. There are several items on tonight's agenda, including items 12 and 13 and 21 through 30. At each meeting, we had good discussions. Everything that's on tonight's agenda was voted favorably with good recommendations. I'll speculate on individual items as necessary, and at this time, no meeting is scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Education and Human Services, Councilor Lazo.
Yes, we had a meeting and business that took place. We had citizen members appointed, Holly Crystal, which is on the agenda, Peter Mainville, and as a citizen member, and Ryan Redker as the appointed to the Commission of Disability. Beyond the agenda, we have no further meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Planning and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, we have not had a schedule since our last meeting, our last town council meeting. The next one is scheduled for 20th of August.
Thank you. Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. We did have a meeting on July 25th, 2019, and agenda item 9 and agenda item 10 is what that was were discussed, the appointments of Michael Haslam and Jason Kelly for full-time firefighters. And Chief Normandin will be here to speak on that tonight. I do not have any meetings planned at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Curbside Advisory Board, I've asked Councilor Adams to just give us a brief update as to the status of that committee and the progress made.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just quick update. Things are moving along pretty nicely. We're going to 2 meetings a month now, starting in July. At the end of July, we met with Waste Management, who gave us a great presentation, understanding that nothing is solid right now, but it was nice to hear from a representative that gave us great ideas for the town council down the road when we advised them. Also, our next meeting's on 13 August at 3 o'clock in the Veterans Room. We also have Waste Zero coming in to give us a presentation on that day as well. So they deal specifically with recycling, and it'd be nice to hear what they have to say, giving us some more options. We're in contact with Republic, a few other companies, to kind of do a roundabout to see what's the average cost, what ideas that they can possibly give us. Is that the way we really want to go, or advise the town council, is that the way we really want to go? We've talked about transfer stations, we've talked about independent contracting, we've talked about pay-as-you-throw, a lot of great conversations to be had throughout from the committee. We're continuing to reach out to different companies, like I said before, and if anybody would like to join us, it'll be 3 o'clock on the 13th of August, and Waste Zero will be giving us their presentation, and then we'll probably have another meeting at the end of August as well to discuss a few other things. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor. Thanks for the update. And I do believe in some of your conversations that one of the vendors stated that the town was doing it right by going ahead of time.
So thank you for reminding me, what they did recommend, well, they did give us kudos to, that we're reaching out right now. They like to see on an average about 2 years before the end of the contract to start working with other vendors or looking at their options. So yeah, Waste Management gave us a gave us great recommendations. At the same time, told us we are ahead of the ball game at this point. He appreciates that too. So, thank you.
That's great news, great work there, and that's why we were working so hard to plan ahead so that we're not caught off guard in a few years. Thank you.
We should have everything ready to go before probably May of next year.
Thank you, sir.
To give you the advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman's announcements. I have a few announcements tonight. Town council meetings of the whole, we had discussed this before. I don't anticipate any council meeting of the whole until after August 26, 2019, due to vacation schedules. A couple of the things still pending. We have the town manager goals and objectives. We had the first meeting on August 1st. I think we had a great conversation for setting the goals and objectives for the upcoming year, so I look forward to continuing that discussion. Tonight we have a transfer of $5, so we do definitely have to work on that transfer policy. The review of the minutes and the prior charters review shows that there was different. I can understand how some of the confusion has taken place over the number of years. I think it's really our need to come up with a sensible policy that reflects the charter's intent. So we know the writers of the original charter left everything with the manager when it was the charter commission that was set forth. The actual charter commission, the elected charter commission, moved some of those responsibilities to the council. So I think that's where some of the gets lost in the weeds. So we need a sensible policy, but also one that follows the charter. So I look forward to working with that. And we will set up the DPW school maintenance department. I think, I know the town manager may have talked to the receiver regarding that study, but I think the town council needs to review it first and vet it first before we discuss it. So we'll set those up for after August 26th, as well as the marijuana recreational repeal of the bylaw. So we'll have, coming back on August 26th after vacations, we'll have a very aggressive agenda to get those items completed. I received an email from Dean Iacobucci, who used to be our former worked in the town hall here in the assessor's department. He is currently the business manager of Bay Path in the Southern Worcester County Regional Vocational District. He just reached out to me. It just came out of the blue. We've had a lot of conversations about the tax rate and shifting tax burdens from commercial and residential, and talk about absentee landlords and how we could tax different venues. So he sent me a link, and he wasn't very familiar with it, but I think this is something that we have to, I'll send over to our town manager and our Board of Assessors. What he said is some information regarding the residential exemption. He says, I have to admit I'm not familiar with the exemption, but it appears to be a mechanism to shift some of the tax burden away from moderately valued residential properties to other properties within the residential tax base, including apartments that are not occupied by owners. This could be a way to tax absentee landlords a little more while providing some relief to other property owners who occupy their property. A very interesting concept. So I think the timing is great, because we will be working on setting the tax rate a little bit later in the year. So we'll forward that over to that. It really says it was enacted in 1979. It's an option under the property tax classification, Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5C, that shifts the tax burden within the residential class for higher valued homes, residential properties not occupied owner, including apartments and vacant lands. And I think this is something possibly that had been discussed before. So that's great news to try to work on that. We also have some public hearings coming up, adult use marijuana regulations for the zoning, a sign bylaw, and the right to farm bylaw. Two of them are going through with the planning board. I went down to the planning office today. They did not have any dates set on that as of yet. So we will make sure we publicize that as soon as we get those dates, unless you have something different. That came as 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon.
I'll be working on that tomorrow.
Yeah. So we'll get that pushed forward and make sure that everybody's aware of those dates. School committee vacancy. We have an opening to fill a vacancy on the school committee for the 2019-2020 until the next election of June 9th, 2020. If you're interested in serving on this committee, please submit your letter of intent to the town manager no later than August 15th, 2019. We will be having a joint meeting with the Southbridge School Committee and the receiver on August 26, 2019, pending any applications that we have for that. I've asked the town executive secretary in the office, Ms. Torres, to make sure we schedule that at 7 o'clock. We'll start that at 7 o'clock so everybody can get home from work. And then from that, we'll go immediately into our regular meeting. So we'll have a joint meeting on that. Fire station building project, it was alluded to earlier. We had a meeting with Senator Michael Moore, with Representative Durant in attendance. They were looking to set up a program similar to the Massachusetts School Building Assistant Project, which I think is a great avenue for funding. I think, though, that we have to reach out to our local representatives to try to push that along. They're supposed to get us over the bill, and as soon as we get that, I encourage this council, we'll bring it back before council to maybe send a letter as a council supporting that, because I think that would be a great avenue to try to get some funding for the fire station. The building committee will be providing the council with update in September as to the status of the locations that we've looked at, including the new Central Street location. Finally, tomorrow night is the National Night Out for starting at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the Town Common, sponsored by the Southbridge Police Department. It's nice to hear that the Southbridge Police Department is participating in this for the first time. National Night Out always is on the first Tuesday in August. It's been ongoing for a number of years, and I'm grateful that the Southbridge Police Department is now doing that as well. Doesn't take away from the fine job that they do on all the community activities that they already undertake, such as Cops and Kids, and today there was a nice posting with taking some kids out to the White Mountains. So I think it's great that they do this. A National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live. And I think, given this day and age and this climate in our country, we all need that. Kudos to our police department, because they do a fine job day in and day out in protecting the streets of Southbridge. I had a conversation with Deputy Chief Dingy the other night. Many communities throughout this nation struggle with the diversity in their police departments and lack of diversity. I can strongly and confidently say that we are very fortunate to have the police department, the leadership that is truly a reflection of our community. So I look forward to being part of that tomorrow night. With that, I have, the only last thing I want to bring up too is that we are interveners in the liquid natural gas pipeline that's going into Charlton. We were supposed to, by tomorrow, August 6th, file some information requests to NEC. Charlton, the town of Charlton, had requested a extension on that. The town manager had reached out to me. He had a conversation with our attorney about that. Catherine Cedar, the senior counsel hearing officer, has sent us an email late today at 5 o'clock today stating that both the town of Charlton and the town of Southbridge have filed requests seeking an extension of the August 6, 2019 filing deadline. Under their procedural regulations, they are doing a stay, so the deadline has been stayed, so we have time to file and put something together. So as a council, we'll have to sit and discuss that. So a lot of activity going on, and with that, I'll turn this over to the town manager. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, one of the things I just did recently, just before this meeting, is I attended a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Henry Street basketball court. And I want to start off by thanking this council and our previous councils for the support to redo that basketball court. If you had the pleasure of being there tonight, and a number of councilors did, it was wonderful to see well over 100 kids on that basketball court tonight. And I don't mean just little kids, but a lot of adults that pick up basketball games, and they say that they're already, the people involved in that are already looking at buying some new basketball rims and stuff. They're excited about the park and what it's doing to build that community. It's great because the park and recreational activities is a great place for families to get together and enjoy the opportunity, but it's also a positive experience to keep kids from getting involved in negative things. So it was really wonderful to see. Councilors deserve a tremendous amount of credit for redoing that park and providing the resources for that. Next, we will be working on the playground equipment. Me and Mike are going to meet with some manufacturers and come up with a plan that we hope you support to replace the plastic playground equipment with some new playground equipment. Also, we're looking to work with Councilor Nash and others to do some work on the handball court as well. So we're making slow, steady achievements to that park to bring it up to speed, and it's great to see the community is completely engaged in a wonderful way. So thank you for being involved in that. The chairman talked about Law Enforcement National Night tomorrow night. The Town Manager's Substance Abuse Council will have a table. I'll be there with a lot of anti-drug information. We want to make the community aware of all the things you can do to keep people from being involved in illegal substances. The Town Manager's Task Force has been working very hard at building a flyer to send out to all parents in the high school and middle school. We'll be having a new billboard up like we did last year, a drug education billboard. We're going to be doing a lot of things. The Bay Path Technical High School is producing banners for us for Red Ribbon Week. Red Ribbon Week is going to be held October 23rd for a week, and it really is something the whole community can engage in, providing all kinds of education materials out to children in our school system will be something we're working on. But we really need employers to get involved in this effort. You can go on the website Red Ribbon Week, and you can go on there, you can find different things to be able to educate your employees about substance abuse issues, issues as to how to educate children in school. There's even coloring books for kids. There's a lot of information you can get to help make people aware of this particular issue, and it really is a plague on our society these days. And as you know, many people throughout the country are overdosing, and we need to do everything in our power to stop that from happening. And I appreciate, again, the town council has been a big supporter of that program to make sure that we do everything we can to protect our children. I do want to briefly mention that the tax office has hired Christian Molindato as a new employee in the tax office. This will be the 5th person who speaks Spanish. So I want to say to the Latino community out there that there are 5 different people in Town Hall that can communicate with you if you can't speak English and you want to come in. You need to feel free and comfortable to come in this building and engage with our employees. Our employees will do everything in their power to answer your questions and make sure you understand what the services that we provide are to you. So we only had 2 people back 3 years ago. We're building that up, and I encourage everybody to come in and utilize the services we have in Town Hall. And Mr. Chairman, I believe that is it. Thank you.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, to the town manager. I wanted to know, former Council Clements brought up the Wells building. I wanted to know if you had any updates on the Wells building. I haven't seen anything in our email on the purchase and sales agreement. Do you have any details on that
Sure.
for us to share? Or?
Thank you. Yeah, I've talked to Richard Relish, as you know, is the developer doing that project. It's going to be, the state, while they approved it, has not set up all the formal paperwork to that yet. So they're waiting on the paperwork that's needed for the financing of that. So once the state finishes all that paperwork, he will then be able to go out and get the loan to do that project. So that is moving forward. Obviously, the closing part of that is the whole loan process. So we expect that to happen hopefully within the next month or so. He is also, Melissa and him have actually talked about the insurance. Melissa's working on getting the pill. He knows he's going to be paying the insurance costs up front for that for this year. That's all being engaged between Melissa and him at this time.
Yeah, so I haven't seen anything come across in your notes even, so it would be greatly appreciated, an email or in your updates to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair, that's all.
Thank you. Do you anticipate, Mr. Manager, that they'll have this completed by the end of the extension of the purchase and sale agreement that we had already negotiated?
The answer is I believe so, but I can't swear to anything the state does. So every time, even in the time frame for when they were going to do the credits, it was expected months earlier than it was. So I hope so is the answer. If it's not, we're going to have to extend that, but I hope that it does.
Do you know when the date is for that?
I do not have that with me. I can give that to you via email tomorrow.
Thank you.
I believe it's October 7th, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, I believe it's October 31st, on what I found out. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. Citizens Forum, we have presentations, we have none this evening. Citizens Forum, is there anyone that wishes to address the town council?
I'm Kathy LaFiore, 51 Mark Avenue. I just wanted to say something about the basketball courts. Very nice that that's all been done and everything, all that money put into that. But I would really like to see the Little League fields worked on, because the kids and parents actually pay money to use those fields. And I think that they really need some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Maureen Doyle, 771 Lebanon Hill, and this is going on kind of what you said. I'm a limited participant in the LNG case, and I just wanted to update people that Charlton is making an LNG, which is liquid natural gas advisory committee, and they asked to amend the procedural schedule, which Councilor Jovan mentioned. But if anybody has any questions, as a limited participant, I can ask questions. So please email me or call me. And my phone number is 764-8042. And my email is, this is all lowercase, DOYLEMAUREEN, the number 3@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council? Anyone else? Seeing none, move on to agenda item 9. Vote to confirm the appointment of Michael J. Haslam as a full-time firefighter for the town of Southbridge, contingent upon successful results of a medical and background check.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Manager?
Just briefly, the fire chief is going to present these two candidates, but I did just briefly want to talk about the process. Myself, the chief, the deputy chief, and the HR director interviewed the final 6 candidates. I know the fire department had a whole process for screening candidates before that, but I wanted to thank my team for the great work they did in selecting these candidates. I also want to say the 6 candidates we had were all excellent candidates, so it's nice to see the kind of quality people that are attracted to Southbridge. What I really wanted to mention, though, is that that's something we heard from each of the candidates. The reason they were coming to Southbridge was one of our questions, and it's because of the leadership of our Southbridge Fire Department, that they see it's growing, that they see that there's a lot of plans for training and upgrading and potentially of a firehouse. So it was really nice to see that. I'm pleased that the two candidates, I'm going to have the chief, is going to speak to those two, but I want to congratulate them. They have a tremendous amount of experience, as you'll see when he announces them. We don't have any rookies this time. We have people that are well experienced and have already had the firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. So I really want to say I appreciate the effort of our team in going through each of these candidates very, very closely, and I think they've done a great job.
Chief?
Good evening, everybody, council, chairs, and town manager. As the town manager has noted that we did go through a lengthy process, I can actually tell you 2 processes. The first process was started back in January of this year, just before the retirement of Lieutenant LaRochelle. Lieutenant LaRochelle left on March 31st, but we started the process to fill his position, which I hopefully with this council we can continue to do that when we have a retirement. Get someone in the door before our experienced person leaves. So that started in January. We received 9 applications for that. We did offer that one position to one candidate that successfully went through. He opted not to take that position. So that process ended in just towards the end of April. So we had to start all over again. In the meantime, we still had Lieutenant LaRochelle's position to fill. We had another probationary person that was put on last year that did not fulfill his requirements for employment. So we opened up the process again. This time we ended up with 41 applications overall. And as the town manager said, this is a reason. I think the reason is because what we have going for the fire department. Some new leadership, possibly a new fire station, and some new blood with potential promotions as we move forward over the years. So we interviewed 27 people. And then our second series of interviews was 13 people. And then, as the town manager said, we went to 6 final interviews. These 2 candidates I bring forward to you tonight, we've discussed pretty much at length at PPP with a unanimous vote on that. But we have the motion open for Michael Haslam right now. Is that who's first? So a little bit about Michael. So Michael has, I'm recommending Michael to the council for appointment to the open firefighter position to the fire department. During our hiring process, Michael has displayed high degree of integrity, responsibility, ambition towards the fire service, and actually had a lot of knowledge of our fire department prior to. He's been around the block a few times. He's a little bit older, but I do know that he's in good physical health, and we'll move forward with his appointment. He does have his paramedic certification for over 10 years, so he's already fulfilling an empty spot in one of our paramedic slots. And I'm sure he will quickly adapt to our operations on both sides, the fire and the ambulance side. He has all the appropriate ancillary certifications for EMS. He's also got a host of fire certifications, including a few instructor training organizers, coordinators positions. The background check is being currently performed by the Southbridge Police Department, which I still have no update as of today. So.
Any discussion? Council Lazo.
I'm sure that Mike is well qualified. I just have a question on the application. It says, are you willing to relocate? And it says NA not applicable. Can you explain that to me?
So on the application, all town applications have a...
Are you willing to relocate? It says NA not applicable.
So at this time, we have a collective bargaining agreement for 15-mile radius from the town border. The town that he currently resides in does not, it falls within that 15 miles.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Chief, as I mentioned at PPP, we brought forward 2 great candidates. It's kudos to this individual for coming from Douglas, where he pretty much could coast for a number of years, to a town that's going to be very busy. So given that, I welcome him aboard, given his experience. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous vote present.
Congratulations, welcome to the team. Congratulations. Thank you.
Vote to confirm the appointment of Jason J. Kelly as a full-time firefighter for the town of Southbridge contingent upon successful results of medical and background checks. Is there a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Chief?
So I'd like to recommend to the council Jason Kelly to be appointed to the open firefighter position on the fire department. Again, during our hiring process, obviously Jason, as you see through his resume and his application, he lives in Southbridge. He is going to be available for callbacks, extra duty call. He is going to be close by to help us continue to do our professional job as we continue moving on through this era. He has a high degree of integrity, responsibility, and definitely a ton of ambition. Again, he knew a lot about the Southbridge Fire Department, working in the town of Oxford currently, and he was in Sturbridge prior to that. So he understands Southbridge. He understands what we're all made of. He has his EMT. He's had his EMT certification for over 10 years, and he's actually very soon to complete his paramedic degree. So hopefully by the end of the year, he'll be an fully operating paramedic. He, again, also has the appropriate certifications to continue to operate as an EMT. Mr. Kelly also has his Mass Fire Academy career training program under his belt, which I forgot to say the last candidate also has his full-time academy already taken care of. So he will not, neither one of these guys will have to go to the full-time academy. And he also has other certifications in officer training, hazmat, and his instructor trainings he actually works for the MFA right now. Complete background is being performed by the Southbridge Police Department, and as of today, I have no update.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilman.
So, Mr. Chair, I should have raised my hand when Mr. Haslam was up, but both these did go through subcommittee, and they were fully vetted, and they were all supported unanimously at subcommittee, so.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
That's my bad. I should have recognized you. I should have thought about that. I'll accept responsibility for that. I'm sorry about that.
You can have it.
Okay, any further discussion? All I want to know, Mr. Kelly, Town of Oxford does know you're here tonight, right? They didn't know a couple weeks ago, but they are aware because it's going to be on social media, right? Okay. Councilor Lazo?
Mr. Kelly, you look very nervous. The only time you have to be nervous is when you have to go into the building. You don't have to be nervous in front of us. Welcome aboard.
Again, Chief, two very qualified candidates. Look forward to it. Do you have any idea when the police department will complete theirs and how soon you can get them on board? Because I know they're desperately needed. So.
Chief Woodson said a couple of weeks, but I think if you look at the appointment, it's worded that they can start working before the background and physical is completed, although the physicals will be scheduled this week.
Yeah. Given the fact that they work for two departments currently, I don't anticipate any issues.
Correct.
On that, but, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Congratulations. Item 11, vote to confirm the appointment of Carmen Rivera as a parking clerk for the town of Southbridge effective immediately through June 30th, 2020, in accordance with bylaw 3-315.1, Charter, Section 4-2-4. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? The only discussion that I have, I'm struggling with this just a little bit, is the fact that I was at the subcommittee meeting, and I understand this is a personnel decision, but we're making a change on somebody that had been there for a number of years with no real explanation as to the department and how it's made up and whether this was posted or not. So just, if you could answer some of those questions, I just have some concerns on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was an involvement, a lot of discussion between our treasurer collector and the employees involved in the situation. The decision was made by our treasurer collector because she believed it was in the best interest of the overall department. She's changing work among a variety of different employees. She felt that this was the best selection, and she has my support for this move.
Was it posted within the town department, or was it just an appointment?
It's a regular appointment by me that I can make the appointment to any of the people. There's obviously only a couple employees involved. these were the really, if you remember correctly, there's only really 2 employees in that department at this time. There's an empty spot. So this was, we believe, the best choice for the department.
Counselor Steves?
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So is there anything in the paperwork that says that it has to be in that department? I think that's what Jack was trying to ask.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
Posted-
the answer
posted
to
in
that
other
question is
people's
that's where
town
we
hall.
collect the money for it, so that's generally where we do it. That's the way it's been done for a long time, because that's where the money actually comes in.
Which makes sense.
I guess the other question I have, we already currently have a municipal hearing officer that's supposed to hear all bylaws and all that. Why isn't that under that person's responsibilities if we already have a municipal hearing officer?
They were both, I separated, they must have been separated long ago, because it's been like this since I've been here for the last couple of years, but they have different responsibilities. I believe this one is for parking, the other one does all the animal control issues and stuff, but Melissa, I'll let you kind of go farther in that.
Yep. Just, I don't know if any of the other councilors know who you are, Melissa, if you could just, because we have new
So
councilors.
I'm the treasure collector for the town of Southbridge. I started a couple of months ago. My name's Melissa Zawatsky. So as far as parking clerks are concerned, it really doesn't have to be within the department. It can honestly be anyone. And parking clerk is defined under Mass General Law. It's not a municipal, it's separate from the municipal hearing officer, and also separate from the abandoned vehicles hearings that we do here in the city as well. And I'm sure there are other things that I'm unaware of, but those 3 I am aware of. But parking clerk is under Mass General Law as a specific hearing for parking tickets in any municipality, and can be assigned to anyone within the municipality as the hearing officer.
Councilor Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this a lateral move?
So the parking clerk is an additional stipend, so it's not part of anyone's particular position, but it is additional compensation to the person who performs it, and that those duties are performed outside the normal business hours of the day.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So I guess the question arises, if it's not specific to that one department, then perhaps it should have been posted for other employees within the town hall to, afford them the opportunity to apply for that, if it's not specific just to one department. I think possibly, if the Mass General Law states that it's separate, and we got Melissa, right?
Yes.
Stating that it's not specific to that department, then perhaps, to be fair to all the employees within the town hall, it should have been offered to everyone.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is an appointment that under the charter that I get to make, this is a person that I think makes the most sense. I think it's a very qualified employee, has the capabilities to do this job, has the capacity to do this job. So I'm bringing forward that recommendation because I believe it is the best employee.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, just to follow up with that. But it's an appointment that doesn't have to be, it's offered. It's offered to that person. They have to show interest in it. You just can't appoint them and tell them, this is what you're doing, I don't believe. So for me, I would have liked to have seen this offered to all the employees, and then you pick from that pool of employees. And, instead of just between 2 employees, now maybe you have 10 employees to choose from.
Mr. Manager?
Just to respond, and Councilor Mayor is absolutely correct, when it comes to hiring a position or giving promotions, we do follow that policy. This is just a very small stipend for a very small job. It's not a hiring or a promotion or anything in that nature. So we believe that this is a reasonable process for this position.
Councilor Steves?
Just one quick question, first of all. First of all, a clarification. I've got the bylaws and the charter right in front of me, and actually, the parking clerk and the municipal hearing officer are not referred to in the charter, but they are referred to in the bylaws.
Bylaws, okay.
So it's actually not under 424 in the charter.
Well, I think
that's a conflict in the charter and bylaws that we need to fix.
If I may, Mr. Steves, Councilor Steves, I think what it is we confirm appointments, so it
Yes,
could be
I
under
have no
that.
problem with that, I agree with
That
that.
might be the reference.
And also, I was also curious, So what process did you use to actually determine, because it specifically mentions it on the merit of fit and fitness alone, why, and I have nothing against Ms. Rivera, just to be clear, on why, what qualifications you were looking for somebody to do this job?
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
That's Manager.
So thank you, and it's a good question. One of the things that, obviously, you saw the letter in your packet is a recommendation from the department head. As you know, the reason why frankly, I look at and you look at recommendations is because department heads work with those employees on a daily basis. They know their qualifications. They know their capabilities. I have a lot of faith in our treasurer collector. Spent a lot of time talking to the employees within our department. She recommended this position. I have every reason to believe that she's made a good choice. We had extensive conversations about this selection, and based upon personnel matters I can't speak to here, I think it is a very good choice.
Thank you. Council Lazo?
Yes, I'd like to ask, to the chair, to the town manager, how long has the previous person been in that position?
I can only speak to when I've been here, but since I've been here.
And to my knowledge, she's been here as long as I've been around. I've been around a while. So I'm going to vote no tonight, just on the loyalty to the previous person, that's no way to treat an employee that's done the job for so many years that lives in Southbridge. So I have a little issue there, but no big deal. It's just my vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you again, and I don't want to get in a debate back and forth with the town manager, so I'm just going to state my piece, and I don't need, but one thing answered after I say this. I still believe it should have been, if it's not specific to that department, it should have been afforded to all the employees. I don't care how much the stipend is. Maybe somebody needs a few extra dollars or something. You don't know. And maybe they're just as or more qualified to do this job. And their department head may, very well say, well, their person is the best qualified. So we don't know what the outcome would have been because we weren't afforded that. And it's not specific to that one department. I don't know the personnel matters. That's personnel. I don't have an issue if a person works in Southbridge and doesn't live in Southbridge. But I do want to know, how much is the stipend for that?
The actual stipend dollar amount?
Mm-hmm.
Through you, Ms. Melissa, if you know I know it's a little over $1,000, but I'm not sure the exact number.
$1,392 annually.
Annually per year?
Yeah.
Per year. So, and I like I said, I don't want any more back and forth, but $1,392, that could make a difference in somebody's life, no matter how little you may think it is, it may be big to someone else. So I think we need to look at the hiring policies within the town hall as well, Mr. Chair. And I know this was an appointment, but it should have been afforded to everyone to apply to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. And I think my point for bringing this up was really, what is the process? We talk a lot about process. We went through this with the fire department hiring process. While this is a small position, and all appointments are the town manager's appointments, but they are subject to confirmation by the council. So we should have figure out a process. So just for the record, no hearings will be conducted during the business hours. Is that correct?
No, hearings will be held after hours.
Right, so none will be held during regular business hours?
Correct.
Are they conducted outside of the town hall, or?
So I had planned to have them in the Rice Room, probably right at 4 o'clock on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, to
Okay.
make them available to people in town after work.
Okay. There's no reflection on your recommendation, it's just in my mind, it's a process issue, so. Any further discussion? Council Steves?
Yes, I guess presume this would be through to you, to the manager. Is there what process do you do to review people who have these stipended positions to determine whether they should stay in them or they should be changed?
So through you, Mr. Chairman, we have not frankly had that many come up.
Yeah.
In most cases, a lot of times we've kept the same person in those positions and have not really had to make a change. In this case, it was a recommendation of the department head, and we had extensive conversations about why that recommendation was being made, and I supported the department head's recommendation. But I don't think we've had, other than reappointing, I think, Evelyn in the other position, there's only a couple of these small stipend positions.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I was wondering if maybe there should be some sort of a process of actually reviewing what they do over time, because, in some cases, maybe somebody is in, I'm not picking on anybody specifically, but in some cases, people can kind of get stuck in the position and maybe they need to be changed occasionally. Or they don't. Maybe they're really good.
Councilor
How
Nash?
do we know?
Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I won't ask any questions about personnel matters. I won't play politics. We pay the town manager and the treasurer collector significant salaries for their discretion, for their decision-making ability, their vetting ability, professional designations, and in a matter like this, I'm going to trust them. We all do our diligence. I have no problem reviewing process down the line, but rather than making a scene up here at the dais, I prefer to stick with my guns and trust the town manager and the treasurer collector that this sort of change, as Councilor Steve alluded, is not necessarily a bad thing. I do believe that they would do this only if change is what they would foresee to be a good thing for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nash. I appreciate your input on that. Unfortunately, I did not have an opportunity to discuss this at general government, so my only opportunity is to ask questions here on the dais, and I'm not a rubber stamp. So therefore, I'm asking some legitimate questions about process, and that's our job, is process. I certainly do trust our department heads, but we also do have a responsibility that if we have some questions, is to ask those questions. They might be difficult, but nobody's I'm not grandstanding here. I'm asking legitimate questions on my behalf.
Made no accusation
So, thank you.
such things.
Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again, through you. It is the process, and, I would like to see this offered to everyone within the town hall. So I don't feel I can support this as it is tonight. I would like to possibly hold off on this and offer it to other people in the town hall, and Ms. Rivera can apply for it again and see if there's anybody else that would have been interested in it. That's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this appointment? Opposed? Motion carries 5-4. Vote to confirm the appointment of Steve Lazo as a citizen member of the Department of Public Works Subcommittee effective August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This recommended appointment came to DPW Subcommittee last Monday night, July 29th. Mr. Lazo has served this community in many capacities for a very long time, and he is definitely someone that I consider an asset, especially to the DPW Subcommittee. His recommendation for appointment or reappointment to DPW came with the unanimous 3-0 support of DPW Subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to confirm the appointment of Sherry Bemis as citizen member of the Department of Public Works Subcommittee effective August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, as with the last recommended appointment, Ms. Bemis was brought before DPW Subcommittee on the 29th with reappointment being the result if this is a favorable vote tonight. Ms. Bemis brings a substantial and significant background in fire service and mechanical engineering, and she served this last year on the DPW Subcommittee. So it is a recommendation that comes with a full 3-0 support of the councilors involved. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Item 14, vote to confirm the appointment of Denise Clements as a citizen member of the General Government Subcommittee effective for August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Steves.
Both this one and the subsequent one with Ms. Ryan were unanimously approved by GenGov. There was, Denise also has a lot of experience, as everybody up here knows, with town council and a variety of other functions in town. So I think we were definitely willing to have her on board again.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. Item 15, vote to confirm the appointment of Jacqueline Ryan as citizen member to the General Government Subcommittee effective August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
Council Steves?
As I said, that was also unanimously sent up. And we had a little bit of a discussion of over concerns about her being on the school committee in Bay Path and whether she really wanted it, and she said that she did, and she said that she believed she would be able to do it efficiently and effectively and would not have any conflict with the other boards that she was serving on. And from my experience with her on the committee for the last couple of years, she's always added a lot to it and thinks about it and asks good questions, and I'm certainly willing to have her back. And
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries.
No, there was one opposed.
There was 2 opposed.
Oh, two, sorry.
Motion carries, though.
Sorry.
Vote to confirm the appointment of Holly Christo as a citizen member to the Education and Human Services Subcommittee effective August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Council Lazo, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I'd just like to say she was confirmed unanimous by the subcommittee. Holly has served on the committee as a citizen member. I've served with her. Fantastic person to serve with, and she was confirmed by the subcommittee.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to confirm the appointment of Peter Mainville as a citizen member to the Education and Human Services Subcommittee effective August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Council Lazo?
Another candidate that applied, Peter Manville. He's a volunteer in other aspects of the community, disabilities, social worker, human sciences services, well qualified for the position, and confirmed unanimous by the Education and Human Services Subcommittee.
Any further discussion? Certainly nice to see a new face. Mr. Mainville is here tonight. If you want to come up and just introduce yourself because the other councils are here, rather than have just blindly, it'd be nice to put a name to the face, or face to the name. Peter Palmieri, right?
Good evening. Again, I'm relatively new to town. I've only been here a couple of years. I see a lot of great things going on in the town. I want to keep on seeing more things, and I wanted to be involved in some way. So I hope it'll be nice to, looks like a nice group of people. My first council meeting, very interesting, and hope to see many more. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Steers?
I just wanted to say thank you very much for putting your name in and participating. We always need people to get involved, and that's okay. I was just saying thank you very much for putting your name in and participating. We always need more people to get involved, and if you know anybody else who is interested in being involved, we have quite a few vacancies on various boards and commissions in town, so, send them our way.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you, Mr. Mainville.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask you to just step back and relay the results of the vote on item number 15?
It was 7-2.
7-2?
Yep.
Could you identify the councilors that voted no?
Council Marquetti and Councilor Jovian.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't articulate my reasons for that. It's just that, nothing, again, just to revisit it, there's nothing against Ms. Ryan. It's just my belief is that she's committed to the Bay Path Subcommittee, School Committee, and Southbridge School Committee that has a lot of work. I appreciate her input, but it'd be nice to have a different voice on that. But I have no objection to it. It's just my personal belief. Thank you. Item 18, vote to confirm the appointment of Sergeant Ryan Rudiger as the official town appointee to the Commission on Disability for a one-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2020, according to bylaw section 3-208, charter section 4-3-1, and 4-3-2, Mass General Law, chapter 49, section 8J. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Lazo, and then Councilor Nash.
Sergeant Ryan Rutger, he's well qualified. He's got a vested interest, and he's a man of integrity. He'll do a fine job, and he was unanimously confirmed by the Education and Human Services.
Thank you. Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a note that I think that sergeant is actually spelled differently in police service, S-E-R-G-E-A-N-T.
I believe so, yes.
I won't ask for amendment. I think it's accepted.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to confirm the reappointment of Merrick O'Connell as this town's special counsel for a one-year term, effective immediately through June 30th, 2020. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Second. Discussion? Just for the public, we had a lot of discussion about special town council. That will be ongoing throughout the year. But given the fact that we do need to have their services continued due to a variety of reasons, it was prudent on us to continue their services while we revisit the issue throughout the year. All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. Item 20, vote to approve a transfer of $5 from Town Council miscellaneous expense account number 001111.578000 to Town Council dues account number 001111.573000 to pay the Mass Municipal Association dues for FY 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Council Lazo.
Just a quick comment. The chairman and I have talked long and hard on the policy. I know it's $5, but it's the first time in a while that we've done it as per charter in the Charter Commission's intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to approve a transfer of $1,710 from the overtime salary account number 001-499-513-513-000 to the salaries, wages, permanent part-time account number 001-499-511-700 to allow for additional 142.5 hours for temporary summer hires. So moved. Second. Discussion? Councilor Nash first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just to note that this was something discussed at the July 29th DPW Subcommittee meeting. I'd be happy to read the notes, but the draft minutes were submitted to the full council. They're on the town webpage now. This is to cover temporary, part-time summer hires that are great value to the DPW director and to the town right now. That's all I'll share for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Steves?
I just wanted to clarify for the listening audience that this is a DPW position, just so you know.
Thank you. And to piggyback on Councilor Nash, I think those part-time employees have shown to be a great benefit to the DPW, that it has freed up some of the full-time people in their duties. So hopefully when we develop the budget throughout the year, we can look to expand on this, because the temporary part-time help certainly does assist your department. So thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Adams?
Yeah, I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? With one abstention, Councilor Adams. Motion carries. Vote to accept a grant in the amount of $50,551.93 for the FEMA-4379-DR-MA March 13, 2018 severe winter storm and snowstorm, and authorize the town manager to sign the grant acceptance paperwork. This grant needs to be accepted to receive the funds, which is 75% of the calculated cost of the snowstorm, which occurred on March 13th to March 14th in 2018.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Council Mann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I remember talking about possible money coming in from the snowstorms, but was this brought back down to DPW by any chance recently? Oh, it was? Okay. I missed it.
Councilor Nash?
Thank you. That would have been my comment through you, Mr. Chairman. Indeed, this did come back to DPW Subcommittee on July 25th, and it was vetted. It was brought forth by the town manager and the DPW director with a good explanation of the amounts and how they'd be used.
Okay. I came in at the last 10 minutes of that.
No, right on. And I apologize, we haven't finished the minutes yet, otherwise I'd get them to you in advance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Vote to ratify the extension agreement between the town of Southbridge and Viola Water for a 2-month period through September 30th, 2019, according to the contract terms of the existing extended contract.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just keep rolling if that's all right. I appreciate it through you. This did come before DPW Subcommittee on the 25th. As we all know, we're working on stepping into negotiations with Veolia Water to have the new contract for a term of 5 years renewable. So this will actually get us through the negotiation period since the existing contract is near expiration if it hasn't already expired. Correct?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Nash?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. I did that only because that's a contract that I think is very substantial and that would require a roll call vote.
Absolutely.
Vote to ratify a negative change order number 4 for the wastewater treatment plant Tower upgrade project with Hart Engineering Company in the amount of negative $25,163.50. This change order is to balance out the final project actual quantities used. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Nash?
I'll
Do you have
defer
anything
to
on
the
this?
town manager or
Okay.
DPW director if there are any questions on this. It was
All right.
discussed at length.
Great. Any questions on that at all? Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you. Item 25, vote to ratify change order number 3 for the wastewater treatment plant phosphorus removal and sludge dewatering upgrades project with Hart Engineering Company to formally extend the time to complete the project by an additional 128 days and issuance of certificate of substantial completion. This motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This was extensively discussed in the reasons for same. It's the closeout of one project, correct? Yeah. So, seeing none, no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to approve the purchase of a Ford F-450 dump with plow from the MHQ in the amount of $69,024.20, including the trade-in of the existing vehicle number 28 from the FY 2019-2020 capital equipment request. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you again, this came to DPW Subcommittee on the agenda of the 25th of July. There was extensive discussion about this. This was a budgeted item and came with favorable recommendation 4-1 from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Now, at the recent DPW subcommittee meeting, I voted no against the next 3 agenda items concerning the purchase of new trucks for the DPW. You know, I ran for town council as a fiscal conservative, and I know that several other members up here also claim to be fiscal conservatives. For the last 10 or 15 years, maybe longer, single-family tax rates in town have continued to rise. Now, last year, my tax rate increase doubled over the previous rate increase, while industrial and commercial property tax rates were decreased almost in half. During the tax hearing last year, the council chair stated that the time to cut taxes is during the budget session, and as far as I'm concerned, the town's budget needs to be reduced. Tonight, we're voting on whether to spend an additional almost $500,000 for trucks, which the town manager said were included in the budget approved by the previous council. And I was not a councilor during the previous budget proceedings, and I don't feel the current council is bound by what the previous council voted to approve, especially since this is going to occur on our watch. So if we're ever going to end this tax and spend mindset, we need to start reducing new expenditures. Now, during the DPW meeting, some committee members made some very good arguments. One member said that they respected the director's judgment on the need for these purchases. Others stated that the trucks are old and need to be replaced. And still others said that if we don't make these purchases now, later on the cost of the equipment will increase. Now, these are all good arguments, but as I said at the last town council meeting, I would like to see an improvement in economic development in Southbridge. And before we authorize any new major purchases, we need new businesses to help offset our tax burden and not just keep dumping these costs on single-family households year after year. So unless the Economic Development Team can show that they are bringing new businesses to town, we need belt tightening at this time. So I find these proposed new DPW purchases excessive and more than the town can currently afford, and I will be voting no on the next 3 agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any further discussion? I think, just to respond to that, Council Marquetti brings up a lot of great points, and I think we struggle as a council to balance the needs of the departments with that of the taxpayer, of which all of us are taxpayers. And we look at that, and we look at how best to utilize the free to cash that you have. And again, we look at those items that we are purchasing, replacing some trucks that are 30-plus years old. And I'm all in agreement with Councilor Marquetti about bringing economic development to the town. And in order to do that, we have to have roads that are plowed and all that. So it is a balancing act, and I respect it, and I look forward to working with the councilor throughout the year on the budget, and as we talk about capital needs and free cash, and I, for one, would never use free cash to offset a regular operating budget, because then you have free cash every year, you wouldn't know if you had it. So it's how best do you use that free cash. So it is a balancing act. Certainly agree with the cost. So thank you for your input. I appreciate it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. 3 opposed. Motion carries. Vote to approve the purchase of a Peterbilt setup for a hook truck with plow, spreader with computer controls, swap loader, and dump body for a total cost of $223,656, including a trade-in of unit number 54 Ford 1975 LN 8000 truck from FY 2019-2020 capital equipment request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, this item was also brought before DPW Subcommittee on the 25th. Substantial discussion. Obviously, $223,656 is nothing to sneer at, and the result was favorable recommendation 3-2 from Subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I certainly hope that, given the fact that we're replacing a truck that is in 1975 with a brand-new one, that we got 45 years out of, which would be a cost annualized of $5,000 per year. Hopefully, we'll get another 45 years out of that. So, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-3. Vote to approve the Water Department budget request to purchase a Ford F-450 service body truck with plow from MHQ in the amount of $635.82, replace an existing vehicle number 83, which will go to the DPW, with unit number 1 to be traded or scrapped. The purchase amount does not include reduction for trade-in or scrap value. So motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This also came before DPW Subcommittee on the 25th with a favorable recommendation 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-3. Item 29, vote to approve the easement agreement between the Town of Southbridge and Teresa M. Anktel of 79 Dresser Street for the construction, maintenance, and repair of a retaining wall. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came before Subcommittee, DPW Subcommittee on July 29th, the Monday night meeting. Substantial discussion. It was the second iteration of the easement agreement. The town manager brought before us a revised agreement that incorporated some changes that are spelled out in the draft minutes. And I'll defer to the town manager and/or Director Blakely with any questions. Thank you.
Any questions, councilors? Councilman?
Well, I'm just like going to question number 5 of the easement agreement with regards to the deck. I believe there was some discussion in general government on that. Councilor Steves, maybe he can elaborate on that. But it doesn't seem From everything I'm hearing, it just doesn't seem like we should be repairing the full deck. I just like that, I just would like to hear some more on that from the notes, if you have those, Counselor Steves.
That wasn't a job, that was the DPW.
That was DPW. I'm sorry. So
Those minutes aren't available.
those minutes aren't available. So I know there were some concerns about the deck and how this is going to now set precedents. Is it actually the town's fault that the deck is in disrepair and we have to now totally destroy it and build them a new one?
Just point of record, the deck is not in disrepair. The deck has to come off the house in order for the town to repair the retaining wall in order to fix the road.
So was the deck on the town's property at the time? Was it built on the town's property?
That I will defer to the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this has went through very extensive discussion about this particular project. The deck is on her own personal property, but in order to repair the retaining wall, the deck has to come down. And the reason the retaining wall has to be repaired is the road that's right next to the retaining wall is sinking because the deck is collapsing. So the reason...
No, the deck is not collapsing.
I'm sorry, the retaining wall is collapsing. So because the retaining wall is collapsing, the road is collapsing. It's our road in...
Let's get the DPW, because I don't believe the retaining wall is collapsing. I believe the road is collapsing, right?
Retaining wall.
I believe he's correct.
Yeah, we're actually falling off.
The retaining wall is showing evidence that it is going to fail. It is
Okay.
bulging in locations underneath her deck. That is why we need to repair the retaining wall, and it is also why we see what we call subsidence in the road. The road is sinking in the location adjacent to her property, adjacent to where the deck is. The deck is on her property. The retaining wall itself bisects the property line, meaning the property line is basically in the middle of the retaining wall based on the survey that was done. This is likely an occurrence because of the fact of when these roads and retaining walls were built. They didn't take as much care or didn't care as much of who owned the retaining wall. So it was built. So if the retaining wall is a foot wide, in parts of it, it's all of ours, in parts of it, it's all of hers. It doesn't follow true to the line of the right-of-way.
So I guess another question is, did you get legal counsel to advise on this?
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Robert Capur has been extensively involved in discussions with both the homeowner and us, and was at the subcommittee at one point as well.
So I guess the second, third, or fourth, however, so she's going to be the one that's getting the two bids, the homeowner, and who is going to be picking from those two bids? Or the town can't find a contractor for this? I'm just confused on that.
Okay, so through Mr. Chairman, she's already received those two bids. Those bids were presented to subcommittee. The subcommittee recommended in the next item Philip Parent Remodeling, which is your next vote. And obviously, they were the lowest price in the bid. That's why we're utilizing them.
Just for the record, Councilman, this has been ongoing since probably about October of last year.
I know.
When it first came up. So yes, Attorney Caprera has been, our legal counsel has been extensively involved in this, gone back. The road has to be fixed. If I may. There is we understand everybody's concerns about easements and the fact that we have to take down somebody's deck, but we have to fix the road or the road's going to fail. And it's a public safety hazard. The other question that we had extensive conversations about in subcommittee was taking it by eminent domain and just going that way, and we don't want to go down that road because it'd be just very costly. So this was the most cost-effective way to address this situation, so that we can fix the road so we don't have a potential failure of that roadway.
Okay, so just so you know, I heard the concerns, and I wasn't as involved in this. I knew about it on Franklin Street. But, I mean, what other areas of town are identified as possibly being a problem such as this? Because I would hate us to go into the construction business for other people's homes.
Every location, every retaining wall that we address or get comments about. We need to go and, first, we go and look and see if we can make a determination based on pins and monumentation of whether whose wall it is. If it's not our wall, and in many cases they aren't our wall, they're built on private property, it's the property owner's responsibility to do the repairs to the wall. It is a case-by-case basis when we go and look at retaining walls. And it is based on what we have for right-of-way maps and what we have for existing surveys. This one required us to actually hire a company and do the survey to make the determination because there wasn't, the documentation that we had we couldn't certify one way or another whose wall it was. And as it turned out, it is joint ownership of the wall.
So perhaps we should do joint ownership of the bill, too.
Council
Put
Lazo?
it right in half.
I sat back and I kind of absorbed as much as I could on the last subcommittee meeting that I was at. I'm frustrated with it. I want to cut the baby in half. I want to turn around and say, yeah, I want to go for the easement. I don't want to pay for their deck. It was built illegally. It encroaches on the side setbacks. The town was not involved in that. And if everybody wants to turn a blind eye to it and pay for the deck, that's fine. That's your choice. But I just want to explain to my supporters that the reason why I'm voting yes on the first one and no on the second one is usually when the town gets together with abutters and stuff, it's usually you meet 50-50 in the middle, work together to solve the problem. But right now, they want the whole pie and not a piece of the pie. So to be fair to the taxpayers of Southbridge, we need the easement, not arguing the point. We don't have to pay for the deck. And that's my point. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Catrona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, as I stated in subcommittee, I think we did hash this out several times. I agree with the easement. I don't agree with the deck. I think what happens as we go further up the road, are more residents going to jump on board and say, I want a deck, I want? I think we open ourselves up for liability.
I would respectfully tell you that this was not negotiated by me. This would be negotiated by Ron, the easement. I do not see any way, knowing how the agreement has been negotiated, that she would allow us to get an easement without us replacing the deck.
For the reason I gave, I cannot support I can support the easement, I can't support the deck.
I understand your position. Again, I am not the negotiating person. Mr. St. Angelo and the town attorney are the ones that did the negotiations.
Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager?
So just to be clear here, the problem we've had all along, and I think everybody understands it because we've talked this at subcommittee, and again, I know you weren't here at the time, the owner of the property will not give us the easement without the deck. So the answer is no easement, no deck. So if you want to fix the road, which is a liability to us, you have to have the easement. Otherwise, we're liable. If somebody gets hurt on that road, the town would be liable. It's a town road. And the only solution to this is to get the easement. And the only way to get the easement is if we do the deck. So that's why we are where we are. We don't like it. I would love to just do the easement alone, but it's just not possible. She won't agree to that.
Thank you.
Council Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick questions. So if the town would be responsible if somebody got hurt on that road, and her property is part of that road, would she be held responsible too for the failure of that road?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the answer is anyone could be potentially responsible. The town would be responsible because it's a road. They could, a person making a claim could try to make a suit against her because she had some responsibility into it. But, you know, in those kind of situations, I hate to say it, courts look at the town as a deep pocket and will look at the town saying it's your road and you need to make sure that the road's maintained and you should have did something with that homeowner to make it feasible to fix the road.
And the second question I had was 30 years from now, let's just say the road is decaying, or is the town going to be responsible again for that deck 30 years from now, 20 years from now?
Council, Mr. Manager?
Through you, I expect that the retaining wall will be built in such a way that it will be long-lasting and this shouldn't be an issue. The future repairs to that wall, again, will be debated on by some future town council and a future homeowner. The ownership of the wall, as the DPW director pointed out, is half owned by the town, half owned by the citizens, so the debate as to what happens in the future is going to be left up to the town council at that time and to whoever owns that property at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I just want to step back because I may have been remiss if Councilor Manna had asked if there were minutes available. The minutes are the ones that I had sent out through the town manager's office, and I do apologize if I misspoke. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councilor McCurdy?
I was at the meeting, and when we voted on this, this item, the problem is, it seems to me it's an emergency situation. I mean, there are people that live up there, and if something happens to that road, they're going to be trapped up there. And God forbid, if they're driving on that road and something happens, it's going to be catastrophic. So it is an emergency situation. I wasn't crazy about the fact that the town is paying for the deck, but that's something that was negotiated by the town attorney. I wasn't crazy about the fact that the deck is going back in the same location, but apparently the zoning board gave a lady a variance. So when it comes to an emergency situation like this, I don't have a problem with it. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lazo?
Not to prolong the discussion, I know that the previous councils worked on this diligently. We're going to put it to the vote. Let me just throw food for thought. I'm not an engineer, but I've dealt with jobs like this where you have an irate abutter, and then they want the easement, and there's no way you can do this job. And the alternative was, on one of the jobs I was on when we ran into this, was they went into the street and they pile drove steel on the inside of the retainer wall. Now, I don't know what the expense is on that, but they pile drove it all the way in below grade, just paved it over, and that was it. I'm not sure that's an option.
It was discussed as an option, and I think the cost consideration and the potential damage of when you drive that steel in, that wall would fail, and the other considerations of the other walls in the area, it was determined it would be very expensive.
How tall is the wall?
It's probably 9 feet in locations. If you're familiar with the area, their garages are basically at the same elevation. The tops of their garage are the same elevation as the road.
We will definitely be opening a new can of worms because I'm familiar with that street, and that street has a fall side to it. And if it starts here, whatever we do, you're going to be doing it all the way up the street. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, to step back, I mean, when it first came to us as a council, we had a lot of concerns over the fact that, about why we would pay for a deck. Why would we do this? And again, we had that whole conversation about the eminent domain cost. Do you take down the house? Do we own the house? What do we do? Then if you take that house, do we go through the... So there was a lot of conversation on that. There's a lot of conversation about, and the reason it's taken so long is the fact that the previous council did not want to have an easement agreement where we were saying, okay, go ahead and put back a deck that was a non-conforming deck. Well, who are we to say that, hey, okay, go ahead, take down the deck, we're going to put up a deck, and then we're going to pay for a deck that's non-conforming. So there was a lot of work done to this in order to get this to move forward. So just again, though, if councils approve the easement agreement, that easement agreement also includes repairing and replacing this deck. So if you're going to vote yes for the easement agreement, potentially you have to vote yes for the repair of deck, because that is part of the agreement, in the agreement. Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. After hearing what DPW Director Blakely stated about, and the town manager saying half of it's ours and half of it's the homeowners, I believe that she should be responsible for half of this. So I'm not going to support this. Thank you.
Councilor Steves?
Obviously, I was part of the subcommittee discussions too, and listening to what all of you are saying up here. It's one of those situations where I think we're kind of we're kind of stuck in a hard place with this one. I don't like feeling like I'm being blackmailed, but it's also a situation where we'd be in much worse situation if we don't do it and the road collapses. I don't know if we'll be in the same situation that Councilor Lazo mentioned about it going up the road, considering where the wall is, and if I'm not mistaken from what the charts say, that most of the wall beyond this point is actually private property, correct?
We believe so. We are working with the engineers, surveyors to have the rest of the road laid out so that we can see where the property lines are for the other properties.
Okay. And the rest of the wall itself is really, it doesn't go all the way to the end of the road, does it?
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't go all the way to the end of the road. It goes in it, there's different walls in different places, and
Right.
some people have parking and stuff like that. Of course, with that means that wall is not ours, that's theirs.
Right.
So it is not the entire length of the road that would be potentially ours. It would have to be, again, a case-by-case basis,
Right.
which we are trying to work on so we can have some more clarification on what part of the walls might be ours.
Right. I was curious, I don't know if you could answer this or Ron can answer this, but was there any discussion during the course of negotiating with Ms. Anctil about the idea of simply deeding a little tiny bit, the other half of the wall to her, or having it be all town-owned so this doesn't happen again?
No, we really never got into ownership issues. It was really all about getting the easement itself, getting the ability to fix the wall. But we never got into trying to exchange ownership. I'm sure that she would love to give us the ownership of the full wall, but I'm not sure we wanted to deal with that because, as I said, future issues are left open. We're not taking responsibility for that wall in the future. It'll be a discussion between a future town council and her at that time. We are not looking to pick up any liability or any additional responsibilities here. So this is to solve the problem at this time being, to make sure that the wall is safe, or the road is safe for residents to use.
I would just clarify, I did something on the floor. I would just clarify that the way I was reading the easement agreement, it's a little confusing as far as that future goes. And I would think that logically, if we ever have to fix this wall again, it seems to me, from the text of the agreement, that we would be able to go on the property and fix it as needed, regardless of whether her deck is there or not.
Correct. That is true. We can go back onto the property in the future to fix it, but the issue of repairing the wall and cost is left for them to decide in the future.
Councilman?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair. And just one more thing in Section 5, if you look on the last page, going down to the last paragraph. Once the deck is taken down, the landowner will submit to the town of Southbridge the invoice for that part of the job, and the town of Southbridge will pay the landowner funds to pay that invoice. And then when the job is finally complete, we're going to pay the landowner again. Why aren't we paying, why isn't it worded that we're paying the actual invoice and not giving the money to the landowner and then they're paying the contractor?
Okay. Mr. Manager? I'm sorry, I'll look at it again, but my understanding of this, and I'll look at it again, is the first part of the job is ripping down the deck. When that job is completed, the landowner will pay that cost and will reimburse the owner for that cost. Then at the time the deck is rebuilt, at the end of that, the owner will pay for it and we'll reimburse the owner for that cost.
That's what I said. Why isn't it worded differently? Why aren't we paying the actual invoice? Why are we paying the landowner and then they're paying the contractor?
The reason that I believe that Rob wanted to do it that way is, if you'll see in the easement, the town is responsible for all the road work and the wall work, but she's responsible for anything attached to the house.
Right. And
he felt that that was the best way to deal with it. He wanted no liability for any of the deck issues. They wanted all that to fall on the homeowner.
Councilman, I'm not an attorney, but I would think that we don't want to have a contract with the builder in case something, we would have to warranty the deck and all that. So she does the actual invoicing and all that, so the responsibility is on her, and we don't have that liability going further.
I understand that, and I'm not asking to put the contract in. I'm asking, why doesn't she just give us the invoice and we pay the contractor?
We can't
Again, to you,
legally do
Mrs.
that.
We can't do that?
No.
Okay. That's all.
Yep.
I mean,
That would be a violation of procurement law. So it's better for her, for us, for the agreement. She pays them directly. We have an agreement with her to do a reimbursement. We don't want to be getting, for the same also reasons of the liability thing, if we're paying him, then we become liable for that also. We want all the liability things to be on her.
Right. And conceivably, that would go into prevailing wage too, because you'd have to contract it under the Chapter 30B, so yeah, the cost would far outweigh the reimbursement. Are you all set? Did you have something else, Council? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I certainly can relate to all the comments and questions that have been expressed tonight. I remember them from last year when we had this very long conversation. I think that members of the inspection department came and discussed their perspective. We had the attorney. I think I felt the same way as some of the councilors tonight that disagree with spending money. But since we're on the easement item, I guess I'm just going to step away because I've already made up my mind. We've been through this for a very long time, and I just want to ask through the chair to the DPW director, how critical is it that we get this wall and road fixed?
This wall has progressively been getting worse over the past years. It was brought up to me when I first started here, and it wasn't in anywhere the shape that it's in now, to the point now that we have gone ahead and put temporary shoring to try to shore it up about 2 years ago. It's been an ongoing project. The design started before, and the survey started even before you guys were even involved in it. So it is, I can't say it's going to fall tomorrow, and I can't say that it wouldn't last for another 10 years. Unfortunately, retaining walls like this kind of act like that. I can say that it's definitely showing indications of failure with the bulge that is sticking out, protruding more than a foot from the normal face of the wall. So it is getting to the point where it could fall at any time.
May I follow up on
Go
that?
ahead.
Thank you. Is there a risk to other infrastructure, such as storm sewers, things like that, water lines?
There isn't a storm sewer there. There is a gas line and a water line that run adjacent to this wall. They are approximately 5 to 6 feet away. We do believe there's ledge down underneath of both of those. The most damage that will happen would be to her deck, and, you know, that is where it's indicating failure. Her foundation and the backfill around her foundation are near her house. I don't see the foundation being directly impacted, but the deck would definitely be impacted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, again, I'm not in favor of paying for a deck for what comes next, up the road, so on and so forth, as more of the wall fails. Is this deck to be built out of pressure-treated wood? I see in the contract that it says similar size and constructed of similar quality material wood as presently exists.
Yes.
What presently exists?
It's PT? It's pressure treated of some sort.
Okay,
It was quoted as pressure treated in the quote, so.
I see that. Thank you.
And just for the record, originally, when it came before us, it was for a Trek. We said we weren't going to replace and pay for a Trek. We will replace like-kind quality.
Oh, boy.
So that's what we
You
said.
got a bat.
Is there any further discussion? Council Steves?
He's up
Yeah.
high, he's fine.
Yeah, just one quick observation is that we're thinking about the way the wall could potentially fail, and I was just thinking that it has nothing specifically to do with this project, but over the course of the last, year or so, there's a property that I've been visiting on a regular basis that had a retaining wall, and you can kind of see it doing the bulging thing, and at one point it just collapsed at random. So it's one of those things where, unfortunately, it's something we need to deal with fairly quickly because, I mean, as Heather suggested, it could last a year or two, or it could collapse tomorrow morning. We don't know. And it's not something we want it to do, because if it does, we have a much bigger problem.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Counselor Catrona?
No.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
No.
Counselor Manna?
no.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Nash?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Motion carries. Vote to accept the value of the quote from Philip Parent remodeling amount not to exceed $1,400 for demolition removal labor and $9,130.90 for reconstruction removal labor of all debris at 79 Dresser Street, according to Section 5 of the easement agreement. And I'm just going to add between the town of Southbridge and Teresa M. Anctil. With unanimous consent to add that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Council Manna.
Thank you. Again, I just want to say, I feel that we should only have to pay half. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
No.
Counselor Manna?
No.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Nash?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
No.
Motion carries. Council Forum. Council Marquetti?
Okay. Last town council meeting, I brought up some issues that were of concern to mine. One was Maria Avenue, the trench there, and the area downtown where the burnt-out building is, and also the scaffolding on Crane Street. I was just wondering if any of those items have been looked at.
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I could tell you the scaffolding, I've had conversations with the owner, with Andy. That scaffolding, it was supposed to be, it was I don't know what it was, some kind of thing on top of it was heavy. I'm told it's been removed, that he was working on getting it removed. Gabe agreed that he had to remove it, so that I can give you a direct answer on. I'm not sure about the trench issue. Could you say that again? I didn't quite
There's
hear.
a trench on Maria Avenue at the curve that was dug out because of some flooding.
Oh, that's a gentleman that called me about the curb. I talked to DPW about that. Glenn had been working with that owner for quite some time. I don't know if Glenn has met back with him again. I talked to Heather about it. She was going to send Glenn back up to discuss it. Is that the same wall? Is that the same one or a different one? All right, so let me, Heather, get to that. I deal with a multiple amount of these issues, Mike. I just want to make sure we get the right answer to the one you're doing.
We will be taking a look at finishing that up. We have other priorities that we're trying to work on, but it will be addressed before the fall.
All right.
Wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the downtown property where the burnt-out building was, there's still a lot of garbage down there and graffiti and blighted area.
Right, so that was a blight question, and I talked to Andy about that as well, and I actually drove by it a couple of times as well. There's a lot of bricks and stuff down, but it doesn't fall, at least we don't believe it falls under the blight ordinance, just having the brick down while he's doing construction of that wall. When I went by it, there was some type of piece of metal there. It wasn't a huge thing, but it was there. The dumpster's also there as well. I don't believe, and I don't think Andy believes that right now it falls under the blight bylaw. While he's in construction, he has a permit for that work, so that's ongoing. But Andy is monitoring that situation.
Okay, well, I noticed that the bank is doing some demolition further up Main Street, and they have it completely fenced off for safety reasons, but yet the construction right there at the burnt-out building, there's no protection from the public. They can easily walk right through there. It doesn't look very safe to me, but that's all right. You look into it, please. I'd appreciate it.
If I could just make one more comment to you, Mr. Chairman. I will say this, that Andy's having a lot of conversations with the owner of that property.
All right.
Not only on that piece, but on a variety of other issues as well.
Okay.
So it is a regular part of the conversation between our Inspection Services Department and that particular owner.
All right, and I thought I would just add one more. I'd like somebody to take a look at that elevator back there. It has a definite drop to it when you get in there and you come up to the second floor.
I'll only say this, that it's under regular inspections. It
Well,
has to pass inspections.
okay, maybe you should
It has
get
passed all of
someone
its
else.
inspections. I will, frankly, I don't remember that part of the conversation. I'll ask Joel about it again, but it has passed the inspection, it has their certificate.
All right.
I write on it on occasion, not too often, but I haven't felt that, but I will
Really?
try it tomorrow to see specifically what you're talking about.
Okay, also, at the last town council meeting, you spoke at chairman's announcements about our town manager's announcements about the blue building, and I told my constituents that I would look into it, and I did look into it. I actually got a call from James McQuaid Mass DEP Solid Waste Section Chief, and he confirmed that I wanted to confirm whether there was a site assignment at the Casella proposed recycling center, also the blue building. And I was informed by Mr. McQuaid that the site assignment is not required for a recycling center. And when I proposed a Southbridge recycling center, and we suggested it at curbside, the curbside meeting, I suggested it be placed at DPW barn, and the inspector told us that it couldn't be there because it's not site assignment. The DEP section chief, Mr. McQuaid, said that you don't need a site assignment for something like a transfer station that's just recycling material. So, and he sounded very enthusiastic about that. He said that most communities put their transfer stations at DPW departments, and he said he would be happy to assist us if we wanted to set up a recycling center at our DPW facility. And one more thing before I'm done, it was my pleasure to go to the basketball courts tonight, and thank you very much for your invitation to the basketball courts, Henry Street Field. That was a really nice job. A lot of people there playing basketball, and the kids looked like they were really having a lot of fun, so it was really nice to see that. Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager?
Just to respond, and I'm going to first admit openly I'm no DEP specialist, but there's distinguishing differences between transfer stations and recycling centers. So
Okay.
I understand what McQuaid told you about recycling, and I was told the same thing both by DEP and by Andy that blue building recycling could occur. And they're dropping it off and they're just picking it up and taking it out. With regard to transfer stations, though, depending upon what materials you're taking at the transfer station determines if it needs to be site assigned or what kind of permit. So simply to do recycling, I would agree to you that there's no requirement of a site assignment or permits. But when you go beyond it, which most transfer stations do, they do a lot of things. Sometimes they take regular waste, sometimes they take oil, they take hazardous material. So you really have to look at the specific uses as determining what has to be either permitted or site assigned or what isn't.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I mean, he did speak to me about that. He says, as long as you're not taking municipal solid waste,
Yep.
it does not need to be site assigned, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just want to, real quick, I want to thank all the parents and guardians who met with me the other night about the recreational parks. I'll be meeting with the town manager tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to discuss this even further. So I want to thank them and all the emails and phone calls that I received from our public. Looking forward to the meeting where we will address the adult use establishments and as far as marijuana is concerned. So I'm looking forward to that getting done and voted on. Another thing I want to bring up, because it was mentioned tonight, and it feels my place at that point in time to talk about it, the economic team downstairs. So part of the solution that when I came in and I ran was to be actually part of the solution, show up, talk, have education, periods of education from the director, listen to what she has to say, listen to what that team has to say. I will tell you, 4 or 5 years ago when you didn't have that team, now we're in a situation where we're rebuilding this town economically. So there is a lot of things that are happening. I would say to anybody that has questions about our economic team, go down there, have a conversation with them, not just once, but multiple times a week to find out what's going on. Like today, we had a couple people go up to Commercial Drive. Rosemary was there because we have an RFP out. We have a couple companies that are looking at purchasing those lots. We're also looking at some other things that are happening around town, and this is where I'm saying get involved. One meeting is not going to cover it. If you find out, it gives suggestions as well, just like we have the video that's going to be coming out this year. That was a suggestion that was brought up. We have maps that were brought up, and I do say that we need to continue to work hard on it. But as council, for any subcommittee, whatever it may be, or going to the department head, I say show up to the department head's office, have a conversation, find out what's really going on over there, and be part of the solution. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the town manager, at the last DPW subcommittee meeting, we had heard of, is there an update on the Central Street parking lot?
Yeah, I thought I sent out an email to all councilors about that. You know, there was going to, we discussed at that meeting that there was going to be a negotiation. As you say, the state recommendation was 75%. Our DPW department and our engineer agreed that that would be reasonable. I had an extensive conversation with the company that did the work, and essentially we got them to agree to 65% instead of 75%. So we're going to get about a $14,000 change order, negative change order, in dealing with that problem. So it's a positive result.
Thank you.
Did you not get the, you didn't get the email on that? Just because I'll make sure you're getting emails. I went out to everybody, so I'll check.
I don't recall seeing it.
I'll check just to make sure.
Thank you.
Anything else, Council?
All set. Thanks.
Council Lazo?
Just a quick go-around. Tonight I was looking at some of the applications and various things, and it's nothing against candidates, and it's nothing against people that are put up in front of us. It's just that I'm curious about residency clauses, again, like we used to have, where I'm not saying that you blanket the community or something like that, but for all new hirees or department heads or who we're looking for, you know, it would be nice if we could have people living in town who take ownership to what goes on in town. And that's no push on any of our department heads or anybody that holds a position in Southbridge. That's a decision that Southbridge did a few years ago, which I think is a problem, and it's not good for Southbridge. And if anybody knows who I am, I'm pro-Southbridge, and I think that a residency clause worked much better than when we didn't have the residency clause. Some people say, you know, look, there are two people that are qualified. Correct. But when there are two people qualified and you have a Southbridge resident should trump the field if they're equally qualified. Now, I'm not in there doing personnel. It's not my job. But I would like to just put my concerns out there as a counselor that the future of Southbridge belongs to the people that create policy, they create, you know, the workings in the town of Southbridge, and I think that when people live in town, they take ownership to the town. And that's the only reason why tonight when someone said not applicable, well, I understood, the reason why I asked the question, I already knew the answer. It's not applicable because it has to be impact bargained. And especially when you impact bargain a 16-mile run for a firefighter. Okay, that's impact bargained, and he's within that. That's not my discussion. When the bell rings, the people that show up immediately are the ones that are local. The ones that are further away, they try to show up. And they might get there, and they might not get there, depending on, you know, what the call is and when it happens. So I think we, in the future, put it in the back of our minds when we move forward, residency clause should be looked at in some form or some way in the future. Doesn't impact everybody that's here. That's not what I'm talking about. I think that moving forward, we should look into that as we look forward with a lot of the positions. Thank you.
Anything else, Council? Is that all, Council Lazo?
That's it.
Council Nash?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I said enough tonight. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Council. Council Steves?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things. First of all, I and Councilor Nash were both at the last concert in the Common on Friday, and it was good. It would be nice to have seen a lot more other people there. So I thought I'd mention the fact that we've got 4 more coming down the pike over the course of the next 4 weeks with the, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the bands now.
The Island Castaways Band.
Thank you. Total blank. Edwin Pabo and Cecil Band is the week after that. Gateway is doing an actual theater presentation on the 23rd, and I am drawing a blank on the one who's playing on the 30th. But obviously, they're all free. They're all on our common. Go down, show up, you know, hang out, catch some good, talented people doing stuff, music and theater. It's a great opportunity to just hang out. Also, I just wanted to point out that there is the Mass Cannabis Control Commission, to kind of tie into what Councilor Adams mentioned earlier, has recently released draft regulations for adult use and medical use marijuana back in July. And they have a comment period that will close 5 p.m. August 15th, specifically regarding social consumption, as in cannabis cafes, and the introduction of delivery services. What they're doing is looking at a social consumption pilot program for 12 specific communities in town, in the state. They have Amherst, North Adams, Provincetown, Somerville, and Springfield, plus 7 others that will be decided going forward. People need to comment and take a look at what the regulations are. They're available on the Cannabis Control Commission's website, and you can put in your comments there for those issues. And there are also public hearings on August 14th in Boston and 15th in Springfield, if you want to take a road trip. Also, let's see, I wanted to mention, what was it? Oh yeah, when are we going to handle the executive session minutes? Because those have kind of been in limbo for a couple of months now.
I had gotten a list from Yvonne, and I anticipate probably taking those up, and I'll probably do that for the first meeting in September. We'll do that.
Okay. And the last thing
Or possibly August 26th. I'll look at the agenda so that it wasn't too much. I was going to try to do it at the last meeting, but we had such an extensive agenda, and as you know, we didn't get out of here till 11:30, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to do it on a night where we might not have an extensive agenda so that we can just get through them.
Right.
Or I'll put it on one of the special, the Council of the Holes, and do it that way. But it is, she did put together the list of executive sessions, some of them going back to 2012, 2014 that hadn't been approved yet. So just a review of those as well.
I thought we reviewed all of those way back to then. I think the only ones we really needed to do anything with were the ones in last year.
Yeah, they were just there that they were still on the list, so they may have to be revisited just to renew that they are not going to be on, but she did put together that list.
Okay. And the last thing I had was that also for people who are interested in public policy and stuff like that, there are 2 bills that are currently in front of the legislature. I have forgotten the numbers, but if you take a look at the state's legislative website and Google nip bottles, there are 2 bills out there in the Senate, one in the Senate, one in the House, that'll add 5-cent deposits to nip bottles. And if you walk around town and as Maureen and I frequently do, we do what we call slob walks, because people throw stuff out of their car and just leave stuff on the side of the road. It's everywhere. And you'll see that countless nip bottles are all over the place. And so I think that something like this would be a good step in the direction of getting some of those things off the streets, and if we can't directly outright ban them. So I'd like to see people put their 2 cents worth into contacting Representative Durant and Senator Fatman to support those bills. Thanks.
Council Manning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. This is a question to the town manager. I emailed you a couple weeks ago, within the last 2 weeks, with regards to an issue, a question that a constituent had with regards to the electric vehicles, and you explained to me that we have to have a charging station for those who come to visit town hall. So I went further and I was talking to, I sent an email to State Representative Durant, and he asked if we charged people for these, and that we could charge if we wanted to. And then I got another email in response to my question with the charging, because I had a question, do we lock it up at night, I think, or my question was, can we lock it up at night? And if there's nothing in the contract that states that, then yes, we can lock this up at night, because it's just for those who are visiting the town hall. So I guess a couple things. Have we thought about putting a, like an app or something, iPay, Apple iPay or something for the charger? And 2, do we lock up the electric charging station for the visitor at night?
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Or when the town hall's not
No, it is
open.
not locked at night. As a matter of fact, I had that conversation with our economic development director after your emails. We don't lock it up at night, and we have not considered charging for it. The big purpose of this, at least from our understanding, is to create green energy, to promote electric vehicles, to reduce carbon monoxide in the air, to be a benefit overall to the community. We believe that it's good for not just our community, but obviously statewide, nationwide, that we move in this area. We want to encourage people to use electric cars. So no, I haven't gone down that path. If council chooses to do so, I'll be happy to hear their views, but at this point in time, I don't believe that that's in the best interest of the people of the town. We do not have a whole bunch of people coming here at night using it. I've been told that once or twice somebody has done that, but it's not anything reckless or crazy. On occasion, most of the time, the people who actually use it are people who come here with electric cars to do business. I'm told that there might be one person who comes a little bit more than that, but I don't think it's been abused, and I don't, my own personal opinion is that we want to encourage this type of activity, not discourage it. So unless council has a strong feeling other ways, I'm not intending to move in that direction.
So okay, so you answered my question. Well, this is a constituent who has a concern because it's his taxpayer money that is paying for the electric charge now. I don't know how much it costs to charge the electric vehicle. I do know that the town of Charlton, they charge. The state, they charge. So I did get those answers. So it is a concern. I think it's something that should be brought up. If it was brought up by a constituent, it is a concern. And knowing that it's not locked up at night, I mean, you told me we encourage the people that come here to use it, right? And it's open for those who utilize the town hall. So at night, after 4 o'clock or after 8 o'clock, when the town hall is not open, they're using it for their own good. They're not using it to come to the town hall and do their business. They're using it for their own personal. So I don't agree with that, and I think it should be a discussion. It was never brought up before, and there was a whole thing on that whole agreement last year. So, okay, and so now my question to Mr. Chair, the protocol for the subcommittees when they want the secretary to do the minutes. What is the protocol for that? Who should we be emailing and copying? Because I do not want to get Ms. Darling in any type of trouble. I know we set aside money for subcommittee meetings to be recorded
Right.
by the recording secretary, so what's the protocol for that?
I believe we had left it that it was up to the individual chair if they determined there was a substantial amount on that subcommittee. So if you were only going to say, like, council allows those last subcommittee meeting, it was 2 appointments of this, why would we pay for somebody to come out? But my understanding was it was just notify the Yvonne and have it scheduled.
So we should copy, we should email Yvonne. Are we going to copy Mary on this, so we give her a heads up, so she can say yes or no if she's available, or?
I would have it go through Yvonne's office. She can make the contacts to whether the individual's available or not.
Okay, yeah, okay, very good, because I just didn't know the correct procedure, and I don't want to get anybody
I don't think
in
we
trouble.
talked about procedure, but I think if anybody else have any suggestion, but I think that's probably the best. You just go coordinate through Yvonne, and she can make the determination. To your point, I believe we should have a discussion about, or the town manager having a advertisement for some additional resources when our secretary's not available. As of the other night, we had through no fault on vacation. That's totally understandable. We had an extensive town councils of the whole meeting. Yvonne was going to step up, but she had something scheduled as well, so perhaps we could get a couple people on a per diem basis to just fill in once in a while, so we'll ask the town manager to put that out.
Okay, and also, I'd just like to thank you for the new chairs. I absolutely love them.
I don't feel like I'm falling out of it or anything like that. So,
And that's all.
Thank you. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to piggyback on Councilor Marquetti and say that it was a wonderful evening tonight down at Henry Street Field. You're right, well over 100 people down there, maybe more, of all ages, playing basketball, playing in the playground itself. I want to thank previous councils and the town manager for having the wherewithal to move the ball forward, no pun intended, to get things going at the ballpark down there. I agree with the citizen who spoke earlier tonight that more needs to be done, and also not only in Henry Street, but at the other ballparks in town. I'm hoping that we can get things moving with the appointment of a new recreation director at some point in the future. I know that that takes time, like everything else in government, but hopefully that'll be a priority to get things done, to get things moving. With that in mind, it may make me a Pollyanna, but I love this town, and I like the fact that there's a palpable change, I think, in the attitude of a lot of people that I'm talking to and what I'm seeing on social media. The council, I think, has been a prime example of that. We've got good, positive, respectful discussions and expressions of our viewpoints. We're getting things done. We're moving forward. I think we genuinely like working with each other for the benefit of the town. And I think that's really something to be said. I think that's something really positive. I think the citizens of the town have come forward, helping the homeless, contributing to food banks, getting ready for the Autumn Fest and looking for other things to do, other types of social events to get citizens together in town, concerts on the Common being one. Just the fact that people are looking for these things and are brainstorming, are coming up with these ideas really says a lot for the citizens of town and makes me want to work even harder. So I want to thank my fellow council members for being, I think, a very good and productive council, for being a very positive council. And I'd like to thank the citizens of Southbridge also for being very positive and coming around and giving all of us good reason to keep working hard for you. Thank you. That's all I have for that. The next meeting date is scheduled for Monday, August 26th, 2019, at 7 p.m. here in council chambers.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? All present. Thank you and have a good evening.